I'm speaking now to my fellow empaths or anxious parents. And I want to talk about how we can learn to create a space between a struggle that our teenager is having and our own reaction or investment in that struggle. A space where we can be empathetic and compassionate and present to whatever they're struggling with, but also very clear that it's their struggle and their problem to solve and not ours. And I think that when we can learn to create that space, it does three really important things. The first of those is that it relieves us as the parents of the burden of having to figure this out for our kid, because it's not our job and we can't do it. So we need to let that go. The second thing that it does is that it relieves our teenager of the burden of having to worry about us on top of whatever they're struggling with, right? I have heard my children say, "Mom, I don't want to tell you this because you're just going to worry." I don't ever want my children to feel like they can't come to me about something because they're worried about my reaction or they're worried about how I'm going to feel about it. So I want to relieve my children of that burden of worrying about me worrying, right? The third thing that learning to create this space does is that it communicates to our teenagers that we trust them to solve their own problems. We believe that they are the agents to solve their own problems, and we can help them and we can listen and we can offer all kinds of support, but it's not our problem to solve because we trust that they can solve their problems for themselves. I know that as someone who struggles with anxiety, I have found myself, when I see my kids suffering or hurting, I have found myself feeling very anxious about having to figure it out and solve it for them. I find myself bringing it up. I find myself suggesting all kinds of things that they can do. And I know that this comes from a place of love. I know that it comes from a place of not wanting to see them hurt. But I also know that it is adding to their stress, having to worry about my own feelings on top of what they're dealing with. And also that it communicates to them that it's not okay to not be okay, right? If I'm so anxious about fixing the problem, what I'm telegraphing to my kids basically is that it's not okay for you to not be okay. And the truth is, sometimes it is okay to not be okay. We don't want to hurt. We don't want to see our kids hurt. We don't want them to suffer, but it is part of life and it's okay. And I don't want my kids to have to pretend like things are okay just to make mom less anxious. And so some scripts or some ways of thinking that have helped me create this space are when my kids say to me, "I don't want to talk to you about this because I don't want to make you worry." I say, it is normal for people to worry about people they love when they see them hurting, but it's my job to listen to my children. It's my job to help you all when you need help, and I can manage my own feelings. I'm okay, and I believe that you're going to be okay, but I also know that it's okay that you're not okay right now. I want to communicate to them that my worry, my feelings are not the thing they need to worry about because I'm a grown-up and I can handle my own feelings. That's a really empowering feeling for me too, as an anxious person, right? I don't need anyone to worry about my feelings. I can handle my own feelings. And I want my children to feel those boundaries. I want them to feel those boundaries. So when I'm able to create that space that is healthy for them and healthy for me, then they open up to me and I can practice empathetic listening. And I've talked a lot about empathetic listening. But one thing I want to say about empathetic listening is that I worked as a crisis phone line volunteer for a number of years. And in the intensive training that volunteers had to do before working on the phone lines, the number one thing that we spent almost 30 hours practicing was empathetic listening, learning how to listen and offer empathy. And it sounds maybe absurd that we spent that much time just learning how to listen and empathize. But the truth is, for many of us, our human instinct is to offer advice and try and fix things for people. And ultimately, that is not what's empowering, and that is not what feels good to people that are hurting or suffering. What feels good is someone who listens, is present for their pain, and also trusts that they can figure it out, that they have the tools. I'm with you, I'm next to you, but you have the tools. And so we had to do 30 hours of training to learn how to do this. Parents, it's hard work if we're not used to doing it, but it is deeply empowering and important work for both you as a parent and for your teenager.